coming at you, and it's almost unbelievable. My name is Adam. I go by Boosted Catfish. It's been my nickname for the last 10 years. Nickname generated from a Camaro I used to have a lot of years ago. It was turbocharged and a 4th gen, and the 4th gen stuff kind of looks like a catfish, so just stuck, and I ran with it. Being an adrenaline junkie, I had to get something fast. First street bike, which was a Bandit, a Suzuki Bandit. I think it was a 97 of all things. Had a motor work, stretched, lowered a little bit. It was not fast compared to today's standards, but it did all right. You know, it was a lot of fun. Stopped riding for a few years to do my prior career stuff. Picked up the car stuff really heavy and started drag racing cars. We would go to car meets or hangouts or the track or whatever, and you always kind of race your buddies. You know, you kind of goof off on the highway, and you know, you line up beside each other and you hear somebody down gear, and it's like, all right, let's go. You know, you're in it. It just evolved and got a little bit more serious. I don't know when it got like pretty aggressive, but it was a lot of fun seeing the progression now, especially. You know, back then it was always, we're gonna roll race to the spot, and then we'll actually race after that. You know, we kind of got a little aggressive with it. We changed our stuff to make sure we were the absolute fastest at a roll, because nobody likes to lose. Brake boosting was a pretty big thing back then. I didn't have the rolling anti-lag stuff like I do on my current bike, or one of my other current bikes. You know, it helps you build boost and stuff like that and leave harder, so we do the brake boost to try to get a jump on somebody. The cars got they're always exhilarating, but I've got really comfortable in them, in my opinion, comfortable, that it's not that it did scare me, but I was afraid something was gonna happen seriously. You know, and the freeing thing of a bike versus a car, you know, you can have a fast car and they're great, you know, I love them. But something about a bike is like you're in the atmosphere. You know, if something happens, like it's you and the pavement. You know, it's very freeing. For anybody that rides, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Even to this day, I still jump on a bike and I get so anxious. I mean, you got everything's going around, you're racing, your head's on a swivel, you're watching everything. It's great time. So I got out, I was working at Roush at the time, and I was working for them, and a bike came up for sale, and I was like, oh, let me get back into the bike game. I went ahead and bought some performance parts for it, turbo kit, some cams, and you know, I was gonna go a little bit more aggressive with the bike, because of the bike scene was getting a little bit more popular. So I was like, all right, let's have some fun. And then unfortunately it got stolen. And then I had the opportunity to buy my dream bike, which at the time is the S1000, the earlier year S1000. For me, it was the Christine bike from Brock's, the acid green BMW. I couldn't find that one or that color, so I found a black one, fell in love with it, and I still currently have that bike. And it's evolved from a stock wheelbase, stock height, you know, bone stock bike, to dedicated roll race bike that it is today. I mean, I still ride it. I'll ride it to work every once in a while when it runs good. When things started getting so competitive, it started off as like, all right, cool, you know, I got an arm or a swing arm. So it's like, all right, I can leave a little harder than you. I don't have to worry about wheelies. And then it's like, all right, well, you know, then it's like, oh, like, let me get carbon wheels to be a little bit lighter, and let me take the ABS off. And so it's, you know, a few more pounds to take off. You can build a motor and make power, and that's not ultimately that hard to do, but to take a bunch of weight off of it, it makes the factory engine run so much stronger. A lot of people don't realize that, you know, how fast a stock bike can actually go. And we're talking like 350 plus pound range. It's just wildly the potential of these bikes. My best friend now, he moved and he was wildly fast. He's a bigger guy, and he come up and I'm like, wow, like what am I doing wrong? So for a few weeks I chased him, trying to I would do little tweaks on the bike, and I'm like, all right, let's race again. Yeah, I'd lose, and I'm like, mother. You know, so we keep going at it, and I finally just couldn't beat him. I was like, you know, I'm gonna join you. You know, can't beat you, I'm gonna join you kind of scenario. And he's taught me a lot, and the PGR team that I'm associated with, I've learned a lot from them guys. Now their style of racing, being in South Florida, is 9/10, and it's supposed to replicate a standing mile. But let's face it, it's not safe to dead stop on the highway. It's not let's face it, we're racing on the highway. It's not safe anyway, but you still got to be a little bit smart about the stuff. I've been doing the racing, street racing a long time. You know, being younger, you're a little bit careless, you're a little bit reckless, and the older you get, you see people unfortunately go down. So as reckless as it is, you have to be smart. So when we do these events, we try to have a driver's meeting.
Now there's a new set of rules if you guys choose to do this.
So we can tell them, you know, how we prefer to do stuff, because all these, you know, all these people come from all over the world or all over the country. You never know how they do it in Texas, Florida. You know, this past weekend we had some Canadians in. So you never know everybody's style. So we do a driver's meeting to try to say, hey, try to stick to these rules so we can be, it is dangerous, at least we can be somewhat safer about it.
Here at Motivation, customer service is paramount. Our knowledgeable staff is available to help you navigate the sometimes confusing world of customizing your motorcycle. We've curated a selection of top brands, and we stand behind every product we sell. We got the parts you need. We stock a ton of parts and offer free shipping on orders over $149. And if you place your order by noon, we'll ship your in-stock items same day. Check out the website or contact us with any questions you have about your next order.
Let's face it, you have a car or a bike buzz you at 180 plus, it's going to scare the driver if they're not paying attention. You know, we've seen everything go, and these bikes are going unbelievably fast. There's one gentleman out of Texas, his bike has been, I've seen it on the street, 250 plus. And then to me, that's almost ludicrous speed on the street. But when something like that happens, you know, we can't block traffic. We can't stop it, because as soon as you impede traffic, you know, people call the cops. And like I said, it's not, what we're doing is illegal anyway. 250 something on the street is wild, you know. That particular bike was a Busa, and a Busa over 230 goes almost silent when it comes towards you, as it's coming towards you, and it's wild. It's unbelievable. You know, at first it was to start being competitive with everybody and just kind of showing like, yeah, you know, fast. And then now it's the brotherhood of stuff. We travel all over. We've met, you know, the amount of people I've met in this community of roll racers is unbelievable. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different careers. But like I said, the bikes bring us together, and the roll racing brought us together. So it's you know, like, fun. You know, you can't always go to the track. I mean, realistically, you'd want to be, so anyway, but we would potentially rather do it in a closed environment, so it's a lot more safer. You know, you don't have to worry about as much stuff. I roll race at the track as well. They've started doing that, a few different events. So I've been doing a lot more of that. I have to wear safety gear, which is smart. I don't have a problem with it. It's uncomfortable, but it is smart. I don't mind it. When you want to race your buddy, you always can't go to a track, but you can always hit the highway, you know, or a back road if you got a good spot. So it just makes it, I'd say, convenience almost. So positive. You get these high horsepower bikes, over 300 horsepower, bikes that weigh, you know, 400 pounds, make 300 horsepower. Actually, there's a few bikes that make more power than they do weight of the bike. And to see these things come, you know, typically if we have a good road, we set up at the finish line and they're coming towards you, and it's just like, holy cow, you know, this is 260 miles an hour coming at you, and it's just, it's almost unbelievable, you know, what we're doing. We're riding, we're racing. Unfortunately, the inevitable is going to happen. You know, you're going to have somebody go down that you're really close with. That's probably the one negative thing, and I've seen the same thing happen on the highways. You know, typically when we do this stuff, we try to keep it to the fast lane. We try to keep a flagger, and the goal is to keep everybody out of the fast lane while you're doing a pull or even setting up. And a few years back in Atlanta, we had an incident. There was a not a fast lane, but like a toll lane, and then there was the fast lane. Well, there was a little bit of confusion. Well, either way, these people were racing, and one guy clipped one, and there was a lot of lot of accidents and a lot of damage. It really was really rough. The guy's bike burnt completely to the ground, and it was not a pretty sight. You know, you see an accident and you're like, oh my God, let's help him. You know, at that point, it no longer becomes like a me versus you. It's like, let me give you attention. Let me help you. Like the ones that are, you know, maybe running no plates, you know, they typically kind of avoid any law enforcement, you know. So that incident that happened in Georgia, when it happened, you know, the majority, I'd say over 80% of the people left, and then there was only a handful that stayed there to stay with the, you know, the people that went down. And fortunately, it's kind of like bad karma to put a wreck out in the atmosphere, you know, or the ethos, or whatever you want to call it. Thankfully, none of that really made it to the internet that I seen anyway. You know, I've went down, I smacked the back of a car at over, you know, triple digits. The lady pulled out in front of me. It was a dedicated, you know, more set up roll race bike, and things happen. You know, she was texting and driving, had a little dog on her lap. It took me a while to get back on a bike. I still struggle when I get into a high traffic area. You're a little paranoid about it, but I think it worked for the best because you're more aware of your surroundings a little bit. The lower left foot was from that particular accident. The right foot was from another accident, and then I got some shoulder issues, and I got two discs in my neck that are bad. I got 2 discs in my back that are bad, so broken rib cage, you know, I'm kind of beat up, but like I never once said I'm not getting back on a bike. It took me a while, but I still did it. Any kind of traumatic injury, and even, it don't matter if you go down at 20 miles an hour or 100 plus, whatever, it's gonna rock you a little bit. It's just natural. You know, the human body's not meant to take impacts like this. So it was a little terrifying. Now, when we get in like high congested traffic area, it's like I get a little paranoid, and you'll see me cut back, and then I'll always keep my distance, you know, to try to be a little bit safer about it. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I can't help it, but I've always raced something. Even if it was doing laps in a go-kart when I was small to you know, growing up and getting something a little faster, I've always been competitive when it comes to racing. And when it comes to me getting hurt, my family didn't like it, but I got, you know, after I could ride, I got right back on the bike. I have to, you know, you can't stop. Adrenaline is probably the worst thing to be addicted to, because you can't just buy it. You know, you have to do something to make your heart and, you know, the chemicals to release in your body. And jumping out of a plane, exhilarating. You know, it's an adrenaline rush like no other. You've got racing. You know, you get off the bike and you're just, your whole body's shaking with it. It's like, oh, you know, there's your next high, there's your next fix for adrenaline. You've got, you know, close call. Unfortunately, that's not how I try to get my adrenaline, because close calls are always horrible. You got to keep going. You know, you race. I can race lower end bikes as far as like stock bikes and have a lot of fun with it, or I can race, you know, my turbo bike. It's just still pinning the throttle and rocking. I've rode some that were a little uncomfortable to ride. I've rode some that's a little difficult to ride when you get like bigger cams and stuff like that. But as far as the rush or the same feeling, you enjoy it the same. Today I got on a stock, bone stock Gen 3 Hayabusa, and I had a ton of fun with it. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be something that's like, you know, 300 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour. It doesn't have to be like that. It's just the acceleration and the excitement of it. My good friend Steve 5up, he allowed me to ride his Pikes Peak version Multistrada Ducati. It's a newly released bike. I had a blast on it. It's stock, super quiet. It's got bags on it, you know, and you would look at what we do as far as roll racing, and you're thinking, oh, you couldn't have fun doing that. But that was just the opposite. We, you know, me and yourself went out and cruised the town and had a lot of fun.
There you go. That's the only. Don't laugh at me, man. I'm on the Pikes Peak, and in order for me to actually get on the bike, instead of me having to go over, I'm standing on the peg to actually go up. So like this. Nothing wrong with that. Come on, man. Give me a break. Give me a break.
Kind of pressured you into a race, and I apologize about that, but it didn't matter. Like, it's super fun. I think just being out on a bike, regardless of what it is, would be a blast. I don't know if I could ride a Grom, you know, down the highway, because I don't even know if they go that fast, but I think you can find enjoyment in any of these bikes. Granted, you can't get on this bike and expect to blast 150 miles an hour down the road because it's not designed for that, but you can still appreciate it, in my opinion. So myself and a few others, some people that's been in the game a lot longer, are trying our best to do an event, a legal event, a sanctioned event on like a runway or a nice smooth area, so we can have a more competitive environment and a safer environment. Ideally, we would love to be able to do this across the country. You know, all 50 states, you come out, you have a good time. I see some negatives with that, or downfalls. I'm not gonna say negatives, just downfalls. The weird thing in the roll racing community, and I think you've witnessed this firsthand, we'll spend, you know, $4,000 on a set of wheels without thinking twice. But then that same person will be riding the cheapest helmet they can get a hold of, you know, in t-shirts and shorts. They're not wearing gear, and I'm guilty of this. I like to be comfortable. That's not an excuse, but that's my excuse. I'm naturally a heavier guy, so for me to throw 10 more pounds of gear on is gonna hinder me. My biggest issue when it comes to racing at the track, because we have to wear gear, I don't feel the levers, I don't feel the bars, and I know they're right there, I know what I'm doing, but it takes away some sensation for me, so it makes it a little difficult to ride. I gotta get used to it. That's why I've never worn gloves. Even on the street, you know, I've messed my hands up pretty bad. They've healed really nice, but I really cannot answer why a lot of people don't wear gear. But if we can get a sanctioned event, the downside with that is a sanctioned event's got to have insurance. To have insurance, your riders have to be safe. You know, we're going to have to do a minimum gear requirement.
Come on, guys.
And that will eventually get there. It's working out. We're trying to line up some sponsors to help with the event. I've been blessed with being able to travel and race. You know, am I making a killing off this stuff? No, absolutely not. I lose money every time I go out. But the people you meet are second to none, in my opinion. We have the gentleman's house we're at now, 5 Up. You know, he allowed me to race. You know, my motorcycle unfortunately had a issue, whatever, but he allowed me to race this motorcycle you see behind me, which is a Ducati Superleggero. It's one of 500. You know, you don't get the opportunity to do any of that stuff. And for somebody to own this bike and then say, hey, yeah, go beat on it, go race it, go ride it. It's, you know, you don't get that normally. It's not a normal thing. I got to meet EJR Performance. We became friends. I've met, you know, 650E, which is, you know, we call him, you know, grandfather of you know, the smackdowns, as he calls them. And you learn, like I said, you learn people's background. You know, I grew up around motorsports my entire life. Even though it wasn't my family's thing, I still went out of my way to do it. Not everybody's the same way. You know, we've got people that roll race and come out as a community and hang out that are doctors, lawyers, aviation pilots. It just changes. It's so crazy to see your backgrounds. And the one thing that brought us together are the bikes, you know, the roll racing, the riding. And since then, you grow into a friendship that's just irreplaceable. You know, the people that I call my friends, you know, I'll do anything I can for them, and I hope they would do the same for me. You get people like that. You know, I've got high school friends and military friends but the bike community is just a little different. Like they're I guess because we all race together, you know, so we race each other, we bust each other's egos down a little bit, and then we'll go out and race and have a good time and break bread together, and it's just a good time. Mainstream, you know, if we can make it more official, we would be able to do a little bit, get eventually more mainstream stuff. But as far as right now, nobody's, you know, going to mainstream something running down the highway passing cars. I know it's not, you know, you can't back something like that. It will grow. What I hope and you know, dream for it to grow into is one thing, and I think it could, as long as we put the right pieces of the puzzle together at the right time. At the end of the day, you're still on a motorcycle. You're never 100% safe. And that might be the reason that we like riding motorcycles. We come to these events, unfortunately, here locally, I'm not from the area, but there is a dedicated race spot. It's a very secluded road. There's no traffic down it. We can set up, we can have a start and a finish line, and we have a driver's meeting beforehand.
So it's gonna help if we talk amongst each other and say, hey, you want to line up? All right, we'll line up. Once we get out to the highway, whatever, have some sort of organization, or if you guys want to get something else done.
We talked about inspecting bikes after each run, don't get in the bike too hot. We actually had walkie-talkies this year. It worked out really well, so we had a guy at the very start of the track, and we would communicate with him and say, hold on, we got, you know, 2 people coming in, or a truck's coming in, hold the racers from racing. We're slowly finding things out that work better at dedicated event spots. So that was nice. Unfortunately, the officials were doing their job. They were very nice.
I agree. We got calls on that part here. I don't care what day.
I know.
We get calls on us to go.
Asked us to leave. We left, no issue, and we had to have plan B. You always got to have a backup plan because things happen or uncontrollably happen. So we took it to another spot, and we had yet again another driver's meeting. That since it changed everything, you know, we threw our 2 cents out in there, and then we kept it in small groups. Small groups tend not to get a lot of attention. You know, you're not 50 bikes deep holding traffic back. So, you know, we'd send people out in small groups. They would do the racing, they'd come back. As soon as they would come back, we'd give it 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever, let it cool down a little bit, and send a next group out. Yet again, it is reckless, but you have to use some common sense about it to keep it safe as possible. When it's more of a very extremely competition, you have a flagger. You know, you pick your start speed, and then you got a flagger in front of you. You wait till you got enough room. The flagger drops. That way, you know you can leave at the same time, or at least close, or you know, have the ability to leave at the same time. If you do, that's on you. There's a common little, you know, signs that you do to each other. You know, you'll like pop the throttle a little bit to kind of get their attention, because as stupid as it sounds, a lot of these bikes don't run horns. Horns are heavy, so you gotta do something to get their attention. So you pop the throttle, and when they look at you, then you need to downshift, and I was like, all right, cool, let's go. Let's migrate to the fast lane. And we say the fast lane because majority of the time, not a lot of people are in it. So you kind of use that lane, and the flyers can be over here, and you run with no issue, or hopefully no issue. There's a select few groups that do like no flaggers, they do head bobs. I think it's a little difficult, and when you're doing it, you're setting up, and you got to match this gentleman's speed or lady, and you've got to make sure you're on the same speed, you're on the same page, and you've got to do this, and while you're doing this, you're not looking forward. So that's the one thing I don't like about head bobs. Try to find some locals in your area that might be a little bit more experienced in it, and learn from them. You know, kind of the downside with this group or community is, the better way to say it, is you have new people coming in all the time, which is welcome. I mean, that's the greatest thing about it. You get new people in, they have new backgrounds, new experiences. They might make their bike a little faster. Then you might could learn from one another if you become friends or whatnot. But the downside is when you get a pretty fresh person and coming in, they want to prove a point, and they might show out a little bit and maybe do a little something that's maybe a little bit more reckless or draws attention. Oddly enough, we don't want attention, you know. We videotape everything, we do it on Instagram, and that's fine when you, or you know, Facebook or whatever, YouTube. You want the attention after the race, but while it's at the event, you want to fly under the radar as possible because of the things we're doing. You know, pick up their mannerism on the highway and the runs. I'm like, okay, well, this guy's doing this, you know, this a certain way. And then, like I said, we always try to have a driver's meeting of some sorts to have at least some kind of agreed upon etiquette. Typically on these bigger meets, if we're doing them on the highways, we try to keep the starting speed pretty high, not to impede traffic. But if we get on a dedicated race area, we make the starting speeds lower if you can run that. And when you do that, it changes your setups on your bike, and that's a whole nother set of rules when you have a dedicated race spot. So this bike behind me is pretty powerful. It's not mine. So I was leaving out of second gear. Your second gear starts are mostly left up to stock wheelbase bikes, stock height, because you want everybody to enjoy and have fun and hang out or be part of it. So you want to do the second gear so they can be incorporated. Your more dedicated bikes typically start at a 40 mile an hour speed, and you utilize first gear. The manufacturer didn't put first gear in there for no reason. You know, it's there for a reason. Use it. Leave out of first. But some bikes you can't. You know, if they're not strapped or set up, it makes it extremely difficult to ride. Which, as long as whoever you're racing with is in the same conditions, it makes it interesting to see who has the better pull at that time. Your more dedicated bikes, well, both my bikes, they're extended swing arms to get the wheelbase longer, to mainly favor weight in the front end to keep it down. You know, that's the whole deal with that. But your more common bikes, more common setups for these type of meets are your stock wheelbase bikes, like this one behind us. It's stock wheelbase. It's got a strap kit on the front, and what you're doing there is you're lowering the bike, so you're getting a little bit better aerodynamics, but you're also enabling the springs in the forks to extend. You have built up energy inside the forks, but any amount of forward throttle or momentum, that built up energy is extending and pushing the bike up. So when you do the straps, it keeps the forks compressed, keeps the springs compressed. So when it does go to wheelie, it's not using the stored energy of the springs, and it helps it keep it down. So there's a few different manufacturers that make strap. Brock's Performance, I'm sponsored by them, and I'm also a dealer for them. And honestly, I think they make a really good product. I can run these straps on the street, and when I get ready, I pull the strap. I typically do it as I'm rolling, grab the front brake, and as I'm braking, I'll get more aggressive with the brakes and pull the strap. That works out for me. Some people do it before they leave the parking lot or wherever. But also a product they make is like a buckle release. I can literally undo the strap rolling down the road. So when you do that, it's at that point it's like a rigid frame, and you're just you're beating the crap out of yourself. But you can reach down and hit that button and release it, and then you're back to normal. You can hit twisties. There's no issue there. It rides back to a normal bike. So the straps are very, very beneficial as far as the roll racing goes. Instead of having to race these higher speeds because you don't want to wheelie, you can run the lower speeds with some of the more setup bikes, and it's all competition. So GPS, different GPS units, and the fastest I've ever been confirmed on GPS was 202, and that was my goal. I don't really care. I don't have any other goals at that particular time. I just wanted to go to 9/10 racing and break 200 miles an hour. That's all I want to do. I don't know why. That's just all I did. My bikes, however, because I am such a bigger frame guy and heavier, we tend to utilize jockeys. My jockey's been as fast as 216 on my BMW, and then the Busa is not finished yet, but it has been it's gonna be a fast bike. You know, it'll be 200 plus in a half mile. I don't have a favorite bike. I can appreciate all the manufacturers. As a price point, I think the 17 and up Gixxer is the golden ticket right now. I tune several different platforms, and for the price, the purchasing the bike, the modifications, and the tuning ability, I think the newer Gixxers are really nice. The new BMWs with like a Bryn tune flash, also sponsored by them, they're amazing. You don't have to worry about them. The 2020's up, they closed loop tuning. Bryn has made a phenomenal flash for these things. You know, Easy is flying. You know, he's 250 plus and he's moving. As far as like a favorite bike, I would say that bike. However, that bike is unattainable to the majority. So, you know, to say your favorites, you can't really pinpoint it. You can't say this works. I have really good setups for boostes, done a lot of them. They work. The BMW, hey, I like the BMW, so I think that's a good bike as well. Yeah, right now, the Me Too bike is seems to be the 2020 and up BMW. They're comfortable to ride. They have cruise control, which is really cool, and they're fast. You know, the shift cam technology makes that bike, when you leave out a second gear, because most of them are stock wheelbase or standard length, with the strap. With the shift cam technology, you have a lot of low end grunt or power, and it travels through the RPMs. So you have an advantage for leaving out a second. I think an everyday rider would be like a BMW GS or a Multistrada, or more of a touring bike. I was wildly impressed with the Multistrada this past weekend. It's a big bike, but it didn't feel like it when you started riding it. You could throw it in the curves. It had plenty of low-end power. It didn't struggle. It was very comfortable. Has adaptive cruise control. The technology that these bikes are incorporating, or these manufacturers are incorporating into their bikes, is crazy. So it's really interesting, or I'm really curious to see where the manufacturers go with the so-called energy crisis that we're facing. I've noticed a lot of manufacturers are starting to produce electric motorcycles. And typically, we'll say a gearhead or a motorhead, we're not fans of electric vehicles, and I would say I'm kind of the opposite. I don't think they're gonna be as enjoyable, because some people take motorcycles and ride for 600 plus miles or several hours or whatnot, and the ranges on the newer bikes, the newer electric bikes that I've seen, it's just not there. There is a hyper sport bike coming out that's electric, and it's claiming to be 200 mile an hour, and really excited to see how that goes. See if I can get my hands on one. Don't know how to tune it, but you know, we'll figure all that stuff out. So anything can be manufactured. You know, it's always how much is it going to cost. So these electric bikes are standard wheelbase. You know, the super sport style bike that's coming out, it's going to take a while, and the demand has got to be there for a manufacturer to build like a swing arm to try it. Till we start seeing them a little bit more commonly, I do not see these electric bikes being able to go out and run, you know, 195 and a half mile. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I wouldn't mind having one. I just, you know, who knows? You never know what's tomorrow's going to hold. So the roll racing community kind of gets poked fun at a lot. You know, a lot of people say all you're doing is twisting your wrist. You know, you got your twisty guys, or your road race course or backwards guys. You're like, you're not doing any skill. It's not skillful, and you know, because all you got to do is just you're done in shift gears. And then your drag race guys are like, oh, this is easy. You know, we do this every weekend. But you know, I've brought both people to the roll racing scene, drag racers, and they're like, oh, it's not the same. You know, you're not doing it on a prep surface. You're not doing it with a 72-inch wheelbase bike. You're doing it with relatively short bikes, because you got to keep traction. And then when you're shorter like that, you tend to wheelie. So it's like there's a finesse that you got to do these bikes, and each tuner or team has their own way of setting stuff up. So it's, yeah, technically on paper you're doing that, it's easy, but when you actually are lined up beside somebody, it's not as easy as it looks. you know, I encourage people to come out and try it. Please come to one of these bigger events, one of these bigger public events. For anybody that's watching this, and it's not your cup of tea, like it's something you've never done or whatever, you know, I guarantee you got a local roll racer. Try to get a hold of somebody, and or any of the bigger, you know, Instagram accounts that are roll racing, or social media accounts that are roll racing, and just get in touch with them and say, hey, you know, I'm kind of interested in it. Can I come out to this event? Some of our events are private for safety, and because we do a little bit more competitive racing and then some of them are public, and then you come out and you learn stuff and you try it. If you, after you try it, it's not your thing, no harm, no foul. Go back to what you like doing. You know, there's all styles of different racing. I enjoy road course racing, drag racing. You know, I like it all. So don't knock it till you try it.